Now let's talk about one of the cornerstones of the Sony 8000 series, clear back to 2001 when the original 8000 was released, and that is a DME wipe. So if we come down here, we now will select DME. DME wipes allow me to use digital effects to transition backgrounds or keys. In this case, I'm simply doing a standard slide over. Now I'm not using any keys to accomplish this. I'm simply having what's on program, selecting something on preview, and actually being able to do the effect. The way that you select a DME wipe is just as simple as a regular wipe. If I double punch the DME wipe button, up on the menu pops DME wipes. Now what you can see here in this menu is kind of cool. You have a whole bunch of pages of pre-built DME wipes that come from the factory. If I don't like any of those, I can make my own. But for right now, let's use the ones that the factory made. So here under Slide and Squeeze, I can select 1-channel, 2-channel, 3-channel effects. So I'm going to select 1 channel, I'm going to select Slide and Squeeze. Now this is the one we've been looking at, which is simply a slide over. Whatever is online is on the program bus, and whatever is sliding over in the DME is on the preview bus. I have the same normal reverse buttons that I used with the wipe, so if I want to have it slide off, I can do that. So over here back on the menu, I can change all these. If I want to have this pattern will look like this. I can come over here and select a square. Now the square pattern also allows me to go in and use things like modify, position. I can change where the box is going to come from. So if I want it to fly out of here, I can have it fly out of here. I can come over to edge and direction, turn on a border, change my luminance. Here's something we haven't seen yet. We've been changing all of our knob values by turning the knob, but I can also, if I happen to know that I want this to be 100% or white, I can touch this button right here on the menu. Up comes this pop-up. I can either select from this color palette, in this case I'll hit white and it will automatically change it white, or I could have typed in a number by typing in 95.27 if I happen to know that that's the exact color of white that I want. Back over on this a second, I can also go up here and set a particular color and I can copy it. I can copy that color and save it to here. I can change the color. Notice as I change this, the color I'm using appears in this box down here. It'll also tell me from an NTSC standpoint whether it's an illegal color or not. I can then take this and I can set that particular color to one of the squares. So if I know that I want to use this color of yellow a lot, I can now save it on there and it will be saved. And it's easy to change the colors that way. So there's back to my blue, hit close. I can turn on a soft border, so we'll turn on some inner softness here. The nice thing about this is again, I'm not doing any keying for this. I haven't tied up any key or resources of any kind. This is just a background transition. And notice that even here, the border goes away when the transition finishes. I don't have to worry about it. I haven't inserted one keyframe at all. So let's change and play with a couple other things on here. I'm going to turn off my positioner and put this back to normal. I'm going to go back to a 1-channel effect. And this time, I'm going to select Flip and Tumble. And we're going to select pattern 1101 here. And what you'll get is this. Now notice here that I've got a logo behind here. Now where's this logo coming from? If you look on the icon, it says U2. Well, that means Utility Bus 2. So the same place that we changed the utility buses before, I'm going to hold down Utility, and I'm going to select this. As I go through here, you can see different things happening. I've got a bunch of different sources on here that you'll probably see throughout this demo. One of them happens to be the MVS-G logo. And notice here I get a high tally. Tell me where I'm at. So this is really nice because I can now put a logo behind a background transition. And this will work on pretty much any one of these effects here that I'm selecting that has the U2 symbol on it. So let's talk about a couple other things. Let's go into page turns. So if we select this pattern right here, you'll see that we've got a little bit of a page turn. Some other ones. This one actually kind of comes up and then page turns on, comes up a little bit. And again, these are all pre-built effects that come from the factory this way. I haven't had to build any timelines, nothing. One of the unique ones here is Frame I/O picture-in-picture. And if you can see here, that's what I've selected. This is a transition that never completes. What that means is, if I move a fader arm or hit auto trans, this box is going to come up like this, and it never finishes the transition. It just comes up and goes back. The opposite of that down here is this pattern, which allows me to start full, and it will compress back and then expand. This is great for doing something like a squeeze back. So if I squeeze this back, I can then come over to Modify, change position and size. Come over here, take this up like this, maybe make the size a little bit less. Change my position over a little bit more. And there I have it. This is a typical thing you'll see on a lot of television stations. They squeeze something back to reveal a video in the background, maybe a ticker, maybe some kind of information, and then bring it back. This is great. Instead of having to go and create a timeline and have to key and attach a DVE to a keyer and all those kind of things, I simply select something on program, select something on preset, and auto trans. It does the effect, it's finished, and brings it back full. So let's do a couple of other things on the DME wipes. First of all, we've talked about all the pre-programmed DME wipes we have. But what happens when we didn't make something that you want to run? It's perfectly okay to make your own DME wipes. I'll show you how to do that. Now a little later in the video, I'm going to show you how to build a user DME wipe. But for right now, we're just going to call one up. For some reason, the page turns on our pre-built effects don't have any lighting. Well, I like lighting on my page turns, so I created one and I named it page turn. And now if we use the effect, notice it has very nice lighting. It's got outside lighting, it's got shadows. Now this one happens to be running in one direction. If I hit reverse, it'll allow me to run it in this direction. I also have another one that allows me kind of to do a defocus effect. Allows it to defocus and dissolve at the same time. And again, everything you're seeing here is simply programmed preset bus. And maybe you get a little wacky, something with a sphere that kind of takes a piece of video, wraps it up into a sphere, and then rolls it off to the side. Back on the preset effects, I can now select 2-channel effects. On a slide squeeze here, using a 2-channel DME effect. Again, one of them is program, one of them is preset. And again, I'm not going to go through every one of these, but you can see here, again, I've got the U2 symbol underneath here, so I can see this. I can do some picture-in-picture stuff with 2 channels. So page turn and page roll. Now we look at the effect, it kind of compresses down a little bit, and then you can see I have a separate front and back for it. And then again, on user programs, I like a good old-fashioned cube. This allows me to do a 3D solid as a cube, and again, this is just a background transition. Here's an example of a dual page turn. And a couple other fancy effects where I may be orbiting a couple of things. And maybe something as complex as this. And again, all those are DME wipes, just a background transition from one thing to another.